Hey everyone, Jeff at Tidy Bytes here for the last week, week 5 of Apps Month here in Tidy 24. I am excited about this week's topic because it's one of the most powerful tricks to get what you want out of the apps you use. It's not even complicated, it's just something we don't often put at the front of our minds. It's an idea, or maybe I should call it a rule, that I express as one app, one purpose. Put simply, this means you install and use apps based on a specific task or goal, generally concerning the main feature each app was built around, like email, scheduling, note-taking, or task management. And then you always use that app only anytime you work on that task or goal. Here's my favorite example of this. I am on the internet a lot, as you might guess, and there's a lot of content on the internet. I can't consume it all. I don't want to consume it all, but I do frequently come across stuff I do want to read or watch or listen to, either for fun or learning or work or to develop some new skill or just because I'm curious and it looks interesting. So I have consciously trained myself that anything that falls in that bucket of interesting stuff I want to consume gets dumped into Readwise Reader. That is my one app which has the one purpose of holding the content I've decided to consume. Once an article or other piece of content is saved, I know exactly where to find it later when I have time for it. Now, I could go on and on about Readwise Reader because it's honestly a really great tool, but that's not the point. The point is that it's a good example of one app, one purpose. For the purpose of content consumption, my one app is Readwise Reader. Now, I like that example because it's about as clean as it gets, but sometimes the purpose is a little harder to pin down, or you feel like the purpose is too big to fit into one app. And that's a fair objection, but it has a simple solution. Just define the purpose more narrowly. For example, while consuming content for me fits inside Reader in 99% of cases, creating content is much more complex. For Tidy Bytes, I have branding images and logos, email newsletters, video content, social media posts, as well as a number of behind-the-scene plans and checklists I use to more or less stay on top of everything. I can't do all of that with one app. And if there was one app that claimed to be able to do all that, it would probably do a lot of it badly. So I narrow the focus a bit. Instead of creating content, I have writing, graphic design, video recording, video editing, and social media. Separating these into distinct purposes makes it easier for me to pick the best app for each task, and then get good at using each one. Now, I don't actually have a written list of these various app purpose combinations, although I suppose that wouldn't hurt, but I've deliberately molded my behavior around that one app, one purpose rule over time. Doing it intentionally with a clear goal is what transforms one app, one purpose from the natural consequence of the app's design into the trick that makes that app a perfect fit for your own use. I want to give you one more example of what is, for many of us, the worst offender of the one app, one purpose rule: email. Fundamentally, email is a communication tool. That makes it very versatile, but that also means it can end up filling many very different roles. You might use it not just for sending messages between friends, family, and coworkers, but also for learning, for promotions from places you shop at or even don't shop at, for news, for social media updates, for alerts for your favorite YouTube channel, for banking, all kinds of things. Now, the point isn't that it's inherently wrong or bad for you to use email this way. Some people do, and it works perfectly well for them. But it's very easy for your inbox to feel noisy and messy and overwhelming if it's used for so many different purposes, and you're not someone who can naturally and easily stay on top of it all. I don't want my email account to have a purpose as broad as just communication. Way too much fits into that. So I choose the narrower purpose: personal long-form communication. This means if I'm writing to someone else or they're writing to me, and it's not just something I'd send as a text message, or I don't have the ability to send it as a text message, then I use email. For everything else, I look for a different method. Now, because of the way technology has evolved, I make two general exceptions. First is for the automated notifications that come from normal use of services, like order confirmations or shipping confirmations or bank statement alerts or utility bills. These things often aren't available any other way besides snail mail, so email is the best option. The second exception is for periodic newsletters that I intentionally signed up for. It's not exactly personal, but I did ask for it, and that's good enough for me. So while I don't want to tell you what you should be using your own email for exactly, I will encourage you to think about whether you feel your inbox is doing its job well, or if it's possibly doing too much. I want to bring special attention to one category of apps that many of you may not be aware of, and that is the newsreader. Newsreader apps give you one place to subscribe to whatever sources you want and easily see all the latest headlines across all sources in one spot. But unlike your email inbox, articles don't just pile up forever waiting for you to do something with them. Yes, you can go back and read old ones if you want to, but you don't have to. There's an important difference, however subtle, between a newsreader and your email. Email is two-way, bi-directional. People talk to you, you talk to them, or you can anyway. Newsreaders, on the other hand, are one-way, unidirectional. You can read whatever you want and ignore the rest with zero consequences. This makes it psychologically easier to avoid feeling overwhelmed, even if you have a few thousand unread articles in a newsreader, because who cares? The world goes on. But in your inbox, no, those things you feel require action. So if you have an opportunity to start using a newsreader, if you don't already, see how much you can shift out of email and into the newsreader. I bet you'll find that your inbox gets a bit quieter. Very briefly now, I want to run through the apps that I currently use for a few common purposes. Now, please understand that this is not a list I think everyone should follow. Many of these would be poor choices for lots of you for many good reasons, but I want to list them all anyway for potential inspiration and to show you how I have applied one app, one purpose to my own behavior. And again, upfront, while I like these and they work well for me, this isn't a promotion. None of them have paid me to put any of this in this video. So for email, specifically personal long-form communication, I use Fastmail. For content consumption, I use Readwise Reader. For writing of all kinds, including note-taking, I use Obsidian. For video recording, I use OBS Studio. For video editing, I use Camtasia from TechSmith. For graphic design, I use Canva, which is a newer addition to my toolset. For task management, I use TickTick. Todoist is also excellent, but TickTick is slightly more to my taste. And for news reading, I use Newsblur. It has carried forward the interface from the old Google Reader project from many years ago before Google killed it off. So I use other apps and tools besides what's in this list, but they're more unique to my job or hobbies and not generally relevant. So for your action steps this week, step 1 is identify 3 apps that you use on a regular basis. Step 2, write down what you use those apps for. What is their purpose? And then step 3, if there's any overlap or ambiguity, pick at least one thing to change about your usage to provide better clarity and separation between apps. You might end up deciding to use something else entirely, or just modifying how you use the app or what you focus on while you use it. It doesn't have to be drastic, just intentional. For now, good job making it to the end of Apps Month here in Tidy 24. If you're enjoying the material, please like this video, share it with anyone you know who might also benefit from these tips, and subscribe to the Tidy Bytes YouTube channel here on YouTube. Happy data taming, and I'll see you next week.